Hi, I'm Michelle Fitzgerald with the Senzard Learning Center, and today I'm going to talk with you a little bit about psychic emotional imprinting. This is a type of energetic exchange between human beings that is very, very common and can be very, very impacting. It occurs when the situation is just right, and that situation would be you have contact with another human being, you mingle. This is the key. You're mingling with their energy field. So you might be at a meeting, you might be at a movie theater, you sit down next to someone, you go to a dinner party, you take a class at school, and you're close enough, your energy fields are mingling. Now, if that person has, at the time that this mingling is occurring, has active negative emotional issues up and blooming, and you have something going on in your own energetic emotional system that is a match for whatever's going on with them, even if you don't know anything about them, you've never met them before, you'll probably never meet them again. If they've got active emotional issues and you have active emotional issues, and you come together, and even if and there's a match, there's something similar about those energy packages. It could be a single speck of similarity. It doesn't have to be a lot. They can be in a heightened negative emotional state, visible or not visible. Maybe it's just unconscious. They don't even know how emotionally distressed they are, but they can be in a heightened emotional state. You can be in a very weak minor emotional state, but if the type of emotional energies, if the type of thoughts that are involved with the thought forms that are triggering the emotional energies are a match, you can do something akin to photographing their emotional issues, and you'll end up with a copy of their stuff in your energy field. Now, you've just photocopied thoughts and feelings, and once those thoughts and feelings, even though you did not create them yourself, get into your, I think of it as computers, get into your computer, those thoughts and feelings have as much manifestation potential as your own thoughts and feelings. At a basic level, if you've followed any of the other training programs that I offer, you'll hear me often talk about the power of thoughts and feelings. Our thoughts and feelings, whether we are consciously aware of them or not, whether we have created them or not, as in the phenomena of psychic emotional imprinting and acquiring thoughts and feelings that way, whether we have created the thoughts and feelings that are in our operating system or not, manifest our life reality, manifest our day-to-day, living circumstances. So it's not a good thing to be acquiring photocopies of other people's emotional issues. How do you prevent that? Well, the good news is this, is that on a day-to-day basis, if we were, with the number of imprints that we actually all pick up over time, if there wasn't something going on that naturally took care of that for us, most of the time we'd all be dead. We'd be that overcome with thoughts and the thoughts and feelings of other people and the negative manifestations that can do. The good news is that our systems are designed to naturally combust a lot of this stuff that we acquire from other people. The system is designed to do that mostly on its own. The contingency, meaning what will help your system do that, like it should be doing that on a very regular basis, is keeping the electromagnetic field of your heart in very, very, very good condition. Your auric field, the quality of your aura, in very good condition, and the very base level, I call it kind of the starting energetic template. It's something I call a spirit unit within the chakra system. If you keep the chakras themselves themselves out of harm's way, if you've got any kind of breaks in the chakra system, if you've got aura damage, or if you've got a very weak electromagnetic field that's being generated by your heart, your natural shielding and combustion system will not be able to just combust stuff like this that gets into your energy system. So the good news is most of us are in a situation where most often we are combusting stuff like this. But if the acquired package of goo, I just call this psychic goo, is strong enough, and you're having a weak day when it comes to the electromagnetic field of your heart especially, and there are more and more of those for all of us these days because of environmental exposures. I don't have time to go into that in this video, but more and more of us are having trouble maintaining highly robust electromagnetic fields in relationship to that field that is created by the heart. And it's our top level, it's our top defense mechanism in regards to combusting all these undesirable acquired energies from other people. So energetic imprinting is just one form of energetic exchange. And again, that's how it occurs. Now, I'll tell you a couple of short stories to demonstrate just how influential this can be. First, I'll start by saying that, again, most often the energetic exchange is because you, for example, sit down next to someone and you spend enough time there, there's the matching energies, you take a photograph, da-da. So an example with me would be I've, on more than one occasion, picked up imprints where the person that I've sat down next to might be dealing with something like grief, or maybe depression, or perhaps they just had a fight with their husband, you know, something like that. And again, if I've got even a speck, anything in my energy system that gets that is either already active or gets triggered, sometimes for me, and maybe for lots of you that are watching too, because I know I attract a lot of empaths to the work that I do. Empaths are especially vulnerable to energetic imprinting because when an empath sits down next to someone and mingles with their energy field, one of the things that will happen very quickly is the empath will begin to feel what's going on in the other person's system. So you'll sense that the other person is angry or sad. You'll just get a wave of how they're feeling. Well, as soon as that wave comes your way and you sense it, your little computer goes on a hunt for anything you've got in your own personal memory system that's a match. And you start nudging or pulling up those old memory files based on what you're sensing in the immediate environment. And that immediately causes what I call the sticky factor, and that magnetic factor where you're able to then take a photocopy of the other person's active emotional and thought pattern state. Again, empaths are certainly not the only people who experience this. I'm just making the point that empaths are particularly vulnerable to this type of thing just as a byproduct of the way that an empath naturally operates. But back to the whole heart thing, if you have a strong heart electromagnetic field from the sheer beating of the heart, and I've got videos on this on my YouTube channel, I've got many training programs on my website that relate to this. If that heart is in really good shape and the type of field that it is creating is in really great shape, you're going to be heavily protected, empath or not, from this type of exchange. But there's going to be the days where that field just isn't very strong, where the situation is right, and you do have a sticky point and you're able to photograph whatever's going on in someone else's energetic system, these psychic emotional exchanges. So what do you do about it? What's the impact and what do you do about it? A couple of quick stories. One is a story about not so much taking a photograph of an imprint that was in someone else's energy field directly, but photographing a copy of their emotional state, their thoughts and feelings that they imprinted onto some books that I then had exposure to, and I took a photocopy of the imprint from the person who had left their imprint, it may seem kind of confusing, on the book. So I was at a meeting, and I was directing a meeting, and we were bringing in a speaker. The speaker brought an assistant with all these books, And I showed them where to set up the books. The speaker went about getting himself set up. I went about doing something else. And everything was going on. And I finished my work. I come back into the main meeting hall and I decide I'm going to go over and take a look at these books. And I go over and I'm about 10 feet away from the books and I hit a wall of something that was so unbelievably strong. It literally knocked me back. I had a hard time recovering. I was so knocked by it. I couldn't even introduce the speaker 45 minutes later. And I started, dowsing around. What has happened to me? What was that I just hit? What was that? Well, it was it was the reflection of an imprint, a psychic emotional imprint on the books that had been left on the books by the handler, by the person who was the assistant to the speaker, except, blah, 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 blah. I cleared it. I thought I cleared it. I thought I was okay. I went home and go about my business. Days start ticking by. And I didn't connect the dots with this, but immediately following that meeting, I started to have a sluggishness in my sales activity with my business. And I'm self-employed, and I started to have, at the time that this happened, my main business was a sales training company. And I was doing metaphysics stuff on the side, like this meeting was a dowsing meeting where I got the exposure to the books, etc. But my main business was a sales training company. And it was a very robust, very, very healthy and profitable and successful business. And all of a sudden I start seeing this downslide in my sales activity, and it slips further and further and further. And within less than 60 days, it was truly like I was out of business, like I had totally gone out of business. Now I know enough about energetics. I had started immediately increasing my advertising, doing all the normal left brain stuff that you would do when you run a sales training company and you know a lot about sales and marketing. I started doing all the left brain stuff and just nothing, no movement whatsoever. And the market just wasn't a market shift. I'm researching the market to see, oh my gosh, has there been suddenly a major market shift? No, there was not. So that means it's got to be energetic. And I start checking for any kind of energetic influence, checking. I must have belief codes, I must have this, I must have that. I cannot find it. One of the challenges when you get energetic exchanges like this psychic emotional imprinting, it creates a type of static in your own energy system. And it makes it difficult, more difficult than it would otherwise, for you to read your own system. And so I just could not figure out what it was. So I called a dear friend of mine who's a very gifted clairvoyant, and I said, will you please take a look at my situation and see if anything, if you sense anything that is causing an energetic block with my sales activity. I can't keep going like this with literally no sales, zero sales. And she instantly saw a date and she said, check your calendar. I pulled my calendar out, I checked the date, it was the exact date of that meeting, and the whole thing flashed, the whole memory flashed in front of my mind, that getting hit by that energy wall, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I thought I had done a good job of clearing that energy, but as it turned out, I had a lot to learn. This was quite a few years ago. I had a lot to learn about thoroughly clearing energetic imprints. And but once I knew what was still going on, I knew that, oh my gosh, I wasn't really clear, and I went about the business of doing more detailed work to get myself clear. I did clear myself effectively, and the proof of that was from the point that I got that I was 100% clear of the imprint. Within hours, and I mean hours, the phone started ringing. Within days, I had booked thousands of dollars worth of training business. I was right back on track. So I tell you this story just to emphasize how amazingly dramatic and impacting this can be. Another quick story. This also has to do with picking up one of these photocopies, taking a copy of an energetic imprint that was left on an object by a person who had strong negative emotional energies, negative issues. And the object was a chair. I was doing some sales training for a fitness club, and I didn't have a cell phone with me. It was the end of the day. I didn't have a cell phone with me. I needed to make a phone call, and I asked the manager if I could use her office. She said, no problem. I went in, I sat down at her chair, made my phone call. Truly, I was not in there for more than 10 minutes. I stood up from that chair and I could barely move. I had such excruciating back pain. I had to hobble out of the building. Absolutely terrible. Now, most people would think, oh, they sat down the wrong way, they slipped something in their back, they pulled a muscle, they who knows what. But I already at that time knew enough about these type of energetic exchanges, this type of imprinting, that was the first thing that I checked for. Do I have an imprint? And in fact, I did. This gal, it made perfect sense to me. This gal, I knew her pretty well. She had chronic back problems, and they were severe back problems. She had had multiple surgeries on her back, and you can just imagine the number of days that she probably sat in that chair in really intense physical pain. In addition, having emotional reactions to that, let alone the type of emotional issues that would probably come up in the heavy-duty management job that she had at that club. So I took a photocopy of whatever was imprinted in that chair. I was able to clear it within about 10 minutes out at my car. All the pain went away. It was not anything physical, even though the hit was physical. I mean, you would swear it was physical for 10 minutes. But it wasn't really physical because it was an instant physical reaction to an energetic blueprint. Again, a copy of someone else's thoughts and feelings. So those are dramatic examples. It's not always that dramatic, but very often it is that dramatic. So there you have it. So what do you do about this? What do you do about this? Number one, you recognize that it does go on just by hearing these stories that I'm telling you in my description of how this works. And you can use muscle testing or dowsing or your clairvoyant abilities to sense intuitively if you have any imprints, any of these, call them psychic emotional imprints, photocopies of other people's issues that are playing a role in whatever the non-desirable situation is that you're experiencing. It might be a back pain, it might be a drop in your business activity, it might be all of a sudden you and your husband just can't seem to get along, you're fighting constantly, might be all of a sudden you just have lost all your confidence. That can be a psychic emotional imprint. It might not have anything but a speck to do with you. 99% of it has to do with the blueprint, with the imprint. 1% has to do with your own stuff. so just use dowsing, use muscle testing to just check, do I have any psychic emotional imprints that are playing a role in whatever? And then from there, if you've had training, and hopefully you've had some training in how to clear trapped emotions, start with that. These imprints are made up of thoughts, copies of belief codes, and emotional packages, emotional energies. So at the very least, start with any techniques that you've learned that can help you clear trapped emotions. Treat it like your own active emotional issue and clear the issue. That would be the next step. I've got lots of training on this. If you don't know how to do this type of thing, I've got loads of training on stuff like this. So, but clear the emotional packages first. You don't need to worry as much about the content of the thought patterns that are involved. Sometimes it becomes necessary to clear those too, but most times it's most important to clear the trapped emotional energy. So go to work with whatever systems you have to do that, or take some training from me or whomever to get better at that type of thing, to have the skills that you need to clear trapped emotional energies and ultimately to clear thought patterns as well. Third thing is keep yourself clear. Remember I said it takes two to tango thing. The whole phenomena is unlikely to occur unless you're a pretty intense empath and you're triggering your own memory system very regularly as you interact with people. But under normal circumstances, this is unlikely to occur unless it won't occur unless you've got a sticky point. And the sticky point is your own emotional goo, your own belief codes. Get better at keeping yourself clear of your own emotional energy, negative emotional energies and your own belief codes. And again, I've got tons of training programs on that through my website if you need some help with that. The last thing would be get some serious training on this subject directly, and I teach that too. So I've got a fantastic seminar coming up next Saturday called Invisible Entanglements. It's a intermediate level seminar on tackling situations just like this. I've got a fantastic advanced workshop coming up in November in Sedona, so you can check out all these things on my website. But the message is training is available to you, whether it's through me or through someone else. Get the skills you need to keep this stuff out of the way. Do preventive maintenance by keeping your own slate clean. Create and stimulate good shielding and combustion just by keeping your heart electromagnetic field really strong, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's it for today. A little bit about psychic emotional imprinting and the importance of monitoring periodically to see if you're being influenced by any of this, because it is incredibly common. So with that, I say goodbye and hope this was educational. Bye for now.